What to watch on Netflix? Have you ever come home from a long day of work? You know you want to watch something, but you just don't know where to start? In today's video, I will be listing down my top 5 all-time Netflix shows from the past year, and I hope this can give you some insight as to perhaps what you could try next. Before we get started, please hit the subscribe button down below and leave a like as well. Such engagement helps small channels like myself massively. Not only gives us encouragement to just keep creating more content for you guys, but it also helps our channel with the algorithm. So first on the list, we have Narcos. Now with Narcos, I don't even know where to start. The intro alone deserves an Emmy. As soon as you hear those sweet opening guitar chords, you know you're just in for a treat. So Narcos aims to take a look at the cocaine empires that were built in Colombia during the late 70s and early 80s. It takes a look at this war on drugs by examining the lives of Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel in season 1 and the Rodriguez brothers in season 2. The show does an amazing job of looking at the war on drugs from the perspective of both sides, from the criminals and the drug kingpin, and also from the American DEA agents who are trying to actively stop the sale and distribution of cocaine and other illicit drugs. Pablo Escobar and the Rodriguez brothers were once upon a time on the Forbes list, having amassed I think a net worth of 30 billion for Pablo. As much as I know cocaine will have you looking like Tyrone Bings from the Chappelle Show, did you just see how much cash is in that show? I mean, Pablo genuinely had a cash management problem because of course how he got the money, he wasn't keeping them in regular banks. The guy was digging graves, money pits literally for his cash. In fact, he had to hire a dude named Blackbeard to kind of keep track of all the holes that he had dug across the country. He literally burnt $2 million while he was on the run just to keep his daughter safe. We all know burning cash is smarter than putting it in the banks because the banks are systems of capitalist society. We just aim to propagate and maintain control and power among the 1%. The show is just great. The cinematography is superb. The directing is so on point. The casting, I honestly believe Narcos won't be a waste of anyone's time. Do you like chess? Do you like looking at the ceiling? Do you like playing chess while looking at the ceiling? If you do, let me introduce you to Beth Harmon, an orphan chess prodigy with a penchant for alcohol and opioids. All jokes aside, Queen's Gambit is one of the most refreshing miniseries I've seen from Netflix in a long while. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays the role of Beth Harmon, an orphaned chess prodigy whose goal is to become the best in the world. The story is set in the mid-50s and 60s, and it's always kind of cool to see some insight into what life was like back then. One of the instances of that is where we see kids in orphanages or any child who showed any sign of mental health illness were given daily tranquilizers to calm their disposition.
What?
What the hell does that even mean? These kids were walking around that orphanage high as a kite. And of course, what subsequently happens shows us the dark side of drugs. Oh, surprise, surprise. We see as Beth gets more and more successful as she climbs the social and financial ladder, her mental health issues, her substance abuse issues now also come to the forefront. Her parents died when she was very young, hence her being taken to the orphanage. Her adopted mother ends up passing on towards the end of the season. And we kind of see how that marks a downward spiral for Beth. So I just really liked how the show tackled very relevant and important issues without being too much in your face. Next up, we have You. Penn Badgley was made for the role of Joe Goldberg. The plot of You basically revolves around Joe, a former bookstore manager who meets and falls in love with women and ends up forming dark, twisted obsessions with them. We see how in the modern day he uses social media to track and follow their every move and goes to great lengths to remove obstacles from the path toward their relationship. And when I say remove obstacles, I mean Joe Goldberg captures, kidnaps, and kills anyone who he feels like would hinder his plans of finding love, whatever love means in his twisted mind. I read on Twitter and Reddit as well that Joe's mom is supposed to play even a bigger role in season 3, and if season 3 is supposed to be even nearly half as good as 1 or 2, then we're in for a treat. Speaking of disturbed minds, I think Mindhunter is one of the best shows on Netflix out now. Mindhunter focuses on FBI agents Holden Ford and Bill Tench alongside psychologist Wendy Carr. These guys were kind of the pioneers of studying past criminal behavior in order to understand and solve current cases. The show is really cool in that the killers that Bill and Ford interview are actual real killers. I mean, we're interviewing Charlie Manson, Son of Sam, Wayne Williams. Mindhunter is kind of a slow burn show. Once again, it's something that we attribute to the David Fincher. The show gives us some real insights into how these killers actually thought and processed their heinous plans, but at the same time, it also shows us the evolution at the FBI. It's very cool to just see how all that tied in together and how what the work that they did then is still very much relevant and even more so today. Last but not least, we have House of Cards. This show epitomizes the 48 Laws of Power. The show was centered on the power-hungry couple Frank and Claire Underwood. It followed their path to the presidency from the lowly rungs of government and how they were able to achieve this amazing feat through plots, schemes, assassinations, corruption, and just good old-fashioned American politics. House of Cards was genuinely one of my favorite shows, and at one point in time, and I know I'm not exaggerating this, it wasn't only the best show on Netflix, but the best show on television. And once again, how could it not? It was directed and executive produced by the GOAT, David Fincher. This show was Netflix's biggest budget production, and we can clearly see that from the expansive cinematography and set design, the depth of the storylines, the casting. You know, we have Robin Wright and Mahershala Ali amongst a bunch of other talented cast and crew who make features in the show. And honestly, for those of you who are coming across the show now, I really envy you because this is actually the ideal situation. A very good show, 8 seasons deep, like 50-minute episodes on average. Like, you guys will seriously be in for a treat. Okay guys, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope my 5 recommendations provided some value to you and kind of gave you some insight as to perhaps what you should watch next. If anything that I've mentioned today strikes your interest, let me know in the comment section down below. I'll be more than happy to fight or agree with you or make some modifications to my list for another video. But until the next time, it's been me, your average film geek.